This is Load Bearing Leadership, a podcast about responsibility, pressure, and what leadership must hold to endure. This isn't a show about motivation, productivity, or leadership hacks. It's a thinking space for leaders carrying real consequence, where decisions have weight and systems have to hold. I'm Ric Marks. Let's begin. There's a moment in leadership that rarely gets named. Now, it's not burnout, it's not failure, and it's not crisis. It's quiet. Not the quiet of rest. The quiet of no witness. The decisions are still being made, and the organisation is still functioning, and people still see competence. But internally, leadership has become solitary. This episode is about that moment, because isolation is not a personality issue. It is one of the earliest signs of systemic strain. Most leaders do not choose isolation. They arrive there gradually. They stop speaking out loud because others look to them for certainty, and doubt feels destabilizing, and responsibility has nowhere safe to land. They stop sharing weight because the team has already stretched, and they don't want to become the burden. They believe leadership means absorbing quietly. And over time, the leader becomes the place where ambiguity is contained, and emotion is regulated, consequence is held. And not because they are controlling, but because the system has trained them to be the final absorber. It's not resilience, that is accumulation. And load becomes dangerous when it has no witness. Not no support, no witness. As someone who can hear uncertainty without needing reassurance, and can hold complexity without simplifying it, can see the weight without trying to remove it prematurely. And without that, leaders begin to internalize pressure. They shorten time horizons, and they rely on endurance instead of design. Now, from the outside, this often looks like strength, and from the inside, it feels like narrowing. And narrowing is one of the clearest signals that load is exceeding capacity. Here is the critical reframing. And isolation is not a leadership flaw, it's a system failure. Systems that rely on heroic endurance, unspoken expectation, and upward-only accountability produce isolated leaders by design. And when responsibility flows upward, but reflection does not flow back down, the leader becomes structurally alone, even in a room full. And this is why advice like just talk to your team often fails. Teams can share work, they cannot absorb consequence. And asking them to do so destabilizes trust. So leaders retreat, not out of ego, but out of protection. Return briefly to the vessel. Now, a ship is not kept safe by a single watch. No matter how experienced the captain, no one stays alert indefinitely without error. When watch-keeping collapses into one pair of eyes, fatigue increases, perception narrows, and reaction time slows. Now, the danger isn't incompetence. The danger is unwitnessed strain. A shared watch doesn't remove responsibility from the captain. It ensures responsibility is seen before it becomes catastrophic. And leadership works the same way. And partnered leadership is often misunderstood as collaboration or consensus, but it's neither. It is the deliberate creation of a witness capacity. A partner does not take responsibility away, dilute authority, or override decisions. A partner helps carry visibility, holds perspective under load, names strain before it becomes distortion. And this is not emotional outsourcing, it's structural regulation. And when leaders have this, something shifts. decisions slow appropriately, endurance is replaced by discernment, and leadership regains width. Not because the load vanished, but because it no longer is carried alone. And if leadership has felt increasingly solitary, this is not a personal shortcoming. It's a signal. Isolation is not the price of leadership. It is the cost of systems that have not learned how to share visibility. Load-bearing leadership is not about becoming tougher. It's about becoming better supported without losing authority. And in the next episode, we'll look at how leaders mistake endurance for capacity and why surviving under load is not the same as leading sustainably. For now, the question is not, how much longer can I hold this? It's, who is allowed to see what I'm carrying before it reshapes how I lead? Leadership doesn't fail first through incompetence. It fails when the load it carries is no longer visible, shared, or held well. Load-bearing leadership exists to give language to that weight and to design leadership that can endure without breaking people or systems. If this episode stayed with you, let it settle before you move on. We'll continue next time.